I'm with Jim, November 6 Tango Quebec, Alpha 25 Tango Quebec, from Botswana to Heard Island and now to VK6. How did you manage that?
So I live by Bob, KK6EK, the organizer. And for probably 2 years before the Heard Island expedition, I was volunteering, working with Bob, helping him in his warehouse. Bob does many expeditions. He has a warehouse full of equipment. And I was working with Bob, sorting out what we had, what was good, what we should throw away. And I guess I was really good at it because he said, "Hey, do you want to go?" And I asked my wife, and we partnered, and I ran logistics for the expedition, figuring out, imagine a campsite on Heard Island. What do we need? We need tents, we need bunks, we need food, and then figuring out what do we have in the warehouse that we could ship. Should we ship it? How much does it cost? Should we buy it? Or should we go get it donated? And so I turned that crank for 2 years with Bob and got us, all the gear. So that's kind of my tie. The Botswana thing, interestingly enough, was very similar. I went to Botswana to help a friend who owned a game lodge. And on this game lodge in a remote part of Botswana, he was a ham radio operator. All his antennas had fallen down in a huge sandstorm. So he put the word out. Does anyone want to come? If you come to Botswana, if you can make it to Botswana, I'll pay for you while you're staying at my game lodge. So I went out there for 10 days, fixed all his antennas. So like Heard, putting up antennas, fixing them, making sure they work, and then operated and had a ball. And I got a good rep. People really liked it, so that's another element that brought me to this.
So what's your passion on air?
On
being on air in amateur radio.
So a good question. I've been doing it since I was 11 years old, and I love it because I was doing it as a little kid, and it's something that I will do throughout my life. I actually bought the house I grew up in, and so I'm operating the same station that I did as a kid. New technology, but pretty much the same antennas. So for me, I love it because it's something that I'll do throughout my life. In terms of specifics on this team, classic, we were pretty much all CW operators. But when I joined the team, I told Bob, I'm easy. I can do, if you want voice, I'll do SSB. So I was known as the cowboy. And that I get on and just do SSB whenever the team needed it. So CW, but I did on this trip. I did a lot. It's probably 60% voice, 40% CW.
So the logistical expertise, or the range of stuff that you have to worry about. I mean, from toilet rolls to broccoli and everything in between.
Right.
How do you even start to make the first lists?
So great question. So how I did it. So couple things. Bob's written a lot of books about his different trips. Read a lot of those. Tried to get a sense of. I'm also a camper outdoorsman, so I've done a lot of mountaineering, a lot of climbing, so a lot of camping. So I had my own visions. And then I'm good friends with Paul, who was one of the leaders on the VP8 group. And I talked to Paul when I got asked. I said, "Paul, you're going to South Georgia, South Sandwich, 2 months in front of us. What are you doing?" And he gave me some ideas. And then to your point about, so I got a list, and then it's, okay, 14 guys on an island. How often are they going to poop? How much toilet paper? How much are they going to drink? Trying to make some assumptions and trying to and thankfully I'm a pretty good estimator around that stuff. And then, okay, that's going to be a big number. Should we go try and get that donated? Like, we got our drones donated. We all slept on bunk beds because those numbers were big. And rather than try and buy it or ship it, let's see if we can get somebody in Africa to donate it. So that was kind of the thinking behind that.
So you've got your list, you've the first version of the list. How do you measure how accurate it is? How do you even validate such a thing?
So I would develop the list, and then we'd bounce it off Bob. I'd bounce it off Bob because Bob, I developed the list. He had the budget. Oh, I don't want to spend, 600 Aussie for toilet paper. No, we got to figure out another way. Okay, so it was a lot of back and forth. And then some of the teams, so another one was, I developed the list of the clothing. We didn't have to provide clothing, but we asked each team member, this is the minimum we think you need. And so validating that with some of the members, like Alan, who just walked by here, he'd just been to Antarctica a couple of times. Does this list seem right? And so you go to different team members just to get a fresh perspective. Hey, did I miss something? And it was, thankfully, this team is very collaborative, so people were willing to help and add input, and it's the classic 1 + 1 is 3. You get someone else's input, and you're that much further along.
All right, so you've now got the benefit of hindsight. Did you bring enough toilet paper?
Probably too much. What we didn't bring enough of is like sweets, Coke, that type of kind of like not unhealthy snacks, because we had a lot of nuts and good snacks, but by the end everyone was like, man, I could really use a Coke or some M&Ms or chocolate. That's where we missed, but plenty of toilet paper. Which means maybe we didn't go to the bathroom enough, but that's another
whole nother story. So any other dirt, any, oh my God, I wish we'd remembered that?
We probably should have had more backup for the heaters. And I don't know who you've talked to, but we had a couple of heaters. We had the Varsity, the big heater that worked sporadically at best. And then we had a little guy that was the backup worst case. Second week, both those things went kaput. And we probably should have had some backup, because that last week, it got really, really cold, and the weather started to turn, and it started to get a little bit mean. A lot of winds, a lot of freezing rain. Tents developed holes and were leaking. Clothes got wet, and it started to get, and if we had had a heater to help dry the stuff, it would have made us probably more happy campers, because that last week was tough.
It was hard work.
Hard, you just never were warm. And you're never warm, and you're always putting on cold clothes, damp, cold clothes, and it's just recipe for trouble.
What's your fondest memory?
Oh, good question. Fondest memory would be probably couple, kind of two, 1A and 1B. So the penguins, king penguins there, were very, very cute and very curious, almost curious to a fault. We'd step out of the tent, and the penguins could see us from the half a mile away, and they come in little packs of 5 to 10, walking over with their flippers out, and just get to about a couple meters and just stare and yawn and watch just to see what we were doing. And so I love that element. The other element that was very interesting to me is Gavin and I and Fred, myself, radio guy, and then the two scientists on the trip. One day in freezing rain, we went and hiked a mountain, and we went to the backside, and we went exploring underneath a glacier. So a glacier had been receding, and there was a gap probably 2 meters high that allowed us to climb under and take samples, because that glacier's receding, so we've got kind of virgin soil. So take samples of the soil and the water to see what's there. Maybe there's some new species or some new, and that was very, considering the conditions, very extreme weather, and we're out there, exploring an area of the island that's probably never been seen before.
I'm with Jim, November 6, Tango, Quebec, Alpha 25, Tango, Quebec. Thank you so very much for your time.
Absolutely. Pleasure.